All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. So DeAndre Swift, the Chicago Bears continue to make a couple of moves since the offseason has officially started. Contract terms for DeAndre, 3 years, $24 million, $15.3 million guaranteed. This is essentially like a 2-year contract, and if he plays well and the Chicago Bears agree with how he's been playing, he'll get a 3rd year. Nonetheless, this is a huge move, and I'm so glad this happened because obviously, if you guys haven't seen the report, the Chicago Bears were interested in Saquon Barkley, and I feel like for the Bears offseason, that was kind of always a stretch, but there was always this slight possibility that the Bears could actually acquire in free agency Saquon Barkley. They've got a ton of money to spend. They've got a ton of cap space, and they are making moves regardless, offensively, defensively. They've already made, Kevin Byard on the defensive side. We'll talk about that maybe a little bit later on, but the weird thing about the Chicago Bears running attack is they were so good statistically, especially in the last 2 seasons. But when you really get into the nuts and bolts of things, it really wasn't that good. So the Chicago Bears finished the 2023 season as the number 2 rushing team in the National Football League with about 2,400 yards. The thing is, Justin Fields led the team in rushing with 657 yards. So Khalil Herbert, Rashawn Johnson, and Dante Foreman, they only accounted for 1,388 total rushing yards, 74 rushing first downs. That's 22nd in the NFL. So Justin Fields kind of has inflated that statistic for the last 2 years now. Now, before we get any further into tonight's video, if you guys enjoyed, be sure to hit that like button, hit that sub button for daily Chicago Bears content. Bears fans, we could try and get this video to 250 likes. That would mean the absolute world to me. Folks, I absolutely love this move. I think DeAndre Swift's dynamic. He's a playmaker. Maybe he's not an explosive 80-yard rushing touchdown type of running back, but the dude's going to make plays, and he's going to be beneficial for the Chicago Bears team, and the contract is not bad in the slightest, and the guaranteed money, that's a Ryan Poles specialty right there. So DeAndre Swift, 25 years old, he ran for 1,049 yards last season. That was a career high on just 229 attempts. He scored 5 touchdowns. He also chipped in with 39 catches and 214 yards and a touchdown as a receiver with the Philadelphia Eagles last season. He played 16 regular season games. And if you guys don't know, he was a former 2nd-round running back out of Georgia. He played his first 3 seasons with the Detroit Lions. He ended that tenure with only 364 attempts, about 1,700 yards, 18 rushing touchdowns. He did catch 150 balls for about 1,200 yards and 7 touchdowns. But his tenure ended with Detroit kind of oddly. And looking back in retrospect, it just kind of seems like they were ready to move on, ready to get him, traded to the Philadelphia or, traded to the potential suitor. And so it ended up working out. Last season with the Philadelphia Eagles, DeAndre Swift forced 45 missed tackles. He broke 23 runs that went for 10 or more, according to PFF. And, it seems like Ryan Poles and the Chicago Bears just didn't really see that kind of level of explosiveness with Rashawn Johnson, who was a rookie, and Khalil Herbert, the former 2020 2nd-round pick, also can catch the football. He has caught 39 or more passes in each of his first 4 seasons. And just for context, Rashawn Johnson led the Chicago Bears running back unit with 34 total receptions. So, I really like Rashawn Johnson, and I really think he gave the Chicago Bears really great output for a rookie, especially all things considered on the offensive front with the Chicago Bears, passing attack not being all that good. The 5th worst passing attack in the National Football League. They've been mainly run-oriented in the last couple of years, but especially last season. And once again, when we get into the nitty-gritty of things, you look at the Chicago Bears statistically as far as running yards go, and you're like, all right, that's pretty good. 2nd best in the NFL, top 3 rushing attack in the last 2 seasons. Like, why would you go out there? Why would you even need a Saquon Barkley? Why would you even need a DeAndre Swift? And once we get into the nitty gritty of things, it's like, that makes sense. Khalil Herbert, in the year after David Montgomery, I feel like relatively like significantly underperformed. Now take that with a grain of salt because he did miss some time. He had 132 carries for 611 yards and 2 touchdowns. He did average 4.6 yards per carry. But I kind of agree with this DeAndre Swift acquisition where it's just like, I need a little bit more. I need a little bit more pop. And, while we're at it, this brings into question the whole Justin Fields situation. So Kirk Cousins signed with the Atlanta Falcons today. Russell Wilson has mentioned that he's signing with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Baker Mayfield officially re-signed with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It appears at this point in time, and the Raiders just signed Gardner Minshew. It feels like Justin Fields isn't going to get traded. There was a time earlier today on Monday, March 3rd or 11th, free agency officially begins in 2 days. There was like an hour or two stretch where we were seeing all these rumors and all these rumblings that Justin Fields was going to be, potentially traded to the Las Vegas Raiders. And then they went out there and they picked up Gardner Minshew. So I think that's pretty much had its run and it's had its course. Chicago's still in a really interesting position where they have all this money. They have all this cap space. You've got the first overall pick. You've got the 9th overall pick. But at the same time, we're hearing that Justin Fields' trade value has been steadily declining ever since the offseason officially began. And then all those new acquisitions or re-signing quarterbacks that we just mentioned certainly doesn't help Justin Fields' case as far as opposing teams trading for him. I want Justin still to be QB1 for the Bears next season. I still have a hard time believing that they're going to pass on Caleb Williams. And, as the days go by, we did hear a report a couple of days ago, or probably by now about a week ago, that the Bears' Ryan Poles was willing to wait out the first couple of days of free agency to see, what happens with Kirk, what happens with Baker, what happens with Russ, and go from there with Justin Fields. Pretty much the question now becomes in the next couple of days, with free agency beginning in less than 2 days from now, probably in a week from right now, next Monday, we'll probably know if Justin Fields is the starting quarterback for the Chicago Bears. At this point, honestly, it feels like kind of 50-50. I know a lot of Bears fans especially have question marks around Caleb Williams. You should always have question marks around, the first overall pick. You should always have question marks around who your team decides to draft as a quote-unquote franchise QB. But a lot of the things that are going to play into this are opposing teams' draft value as far as giving up for Justin Fields. Like, it wouldn't shock me at this point if the Bears traded down to pick number 3 or maybe even pick number 4 during the draft to just trade back from 1 and select Marvin Harrison Jr. at pick number 3 or pick number 4. So the Bears' DeAndre Swift moves was great. I don't think it really gives any indication of what they're going to do at quarterback, but I do think it was a really good signing for the Chicago Bears. That's it from me. Hit that like button, hit that sub button for daily NFL content, and we will see you next time. But most importantly, give me a grade rating for this move down below.